Don't take it personally. YouTube! What's up, guys? Hope you're having an awesome week. If I look exhausted, it's because I am. But there's no time for sleep, and there's certainly no time for delay, because today I'm giving you my full review of the Hoka Carbon X. I've been putting this shoe through the paces, and I've been taking it out on multiple runs, and I think I'm ready to finally give you my impressions and kind of what I think about this shoe. So for my full reviews, I think that I have a structure that I'm gonna stick to. I'm gonna give you the specs in the beginning, and then I'm gonna go into the upper of the shoe, the midsole, the outsole, and my conclusion. And then at the end, I'm gonna give you a screen that kind of lists my pros and cons, and that's gonna be that. I'm also gonna rate this shoe out of 5 stars. So if it really sucks, it's gonna be 1 star. If it's the best shoe I've ever worn in my whole life and I never wanna take it off my foot, it's gonna be 5 stars. So without any further ado, let's get this show on the road, and I'll tell you what I think about the Hoka Carbon X. As for the specs, we have 35 millimeters in the heel and 30 in the forefoot for a 5 millimeter drop. This shoe is 7.6 ounces for a women's size 8, which means for my 10.5, yes, I know, I got a big foot, it is even heavier. So let's get into the upper of this shoe. We have an engineered mesh with some overlays in the heel for some extra stability. I'm gonna use my girlfriend's shoe here since it's a little lighter and easier to see, but I found the upper to be pretty breathable, and as you can see, there are plenty of holes in the mesh that allow air to pass through. As far as the fit on the upper, it's a teeny bit on the wide side for me, but I have a really narrow foot. I just felt like there was a little extra volume in here, and my foot was slipping around a little bit, and my heel was slipping a tiny bit in the back. But I used the runner's loop, and after that I really had no problems. Just wanted to bring that up because if you have a narrow foot, you might experience what I did, or if you have a wide foot, this could be the perfect shoe for you. But like I said, with the runner's loop and a little bit of a thicker sock, we had the perfect combination, and I was able to move on without sobbing and complaining about my upper. I didn't have any hot spots, I didn't have any irritation, so that's always a plus. And there's a pull tab. Thanks, Hoka. One negative for me is the laces. I said in my first run impressions video that I thought they were flimsy. These laces, I don't know if you can really see them here. These laces are so flimsy. They're so thin and they're hella long, and they're just like, they're just not working for me. And I kind of still feel that way. That didn't really change, especially because if you watch my favorite place to run video, you'll see that within the first mile or half mile that I was wearing them, my shoelaces came untied.
I just had to stop because my shoelace came untied.
And no, they weren't tied loose. I didn't tie them wrong. I know how to tie my shoes. I've been doing it since I was 5. They just came untied, and it's because they're not designed well. I mean, this is supposed to be a high competition level shoe, and I don't feel like they cheaped out anywhere, but these laces, man, they are not good. I don't understand why Hoka didn't just use the laces in the Rincon or the Clifton. Those are flat, but they're stretchy and they stay tied. So maybe for the Carbon X2 or whatever they're gonna call it, they can fix that. And I've seen other people have the same problem, so I know that I'm not alone. Now for the midsole. So the midsole is really what the Carbon X is all about. There's a lot of different components to this midsole that make it one of Hoka's top competition shoes. For starters, Hoka is using their Meta Rocker technology, and if you haven't seen any of my other videos, then you might not know what I'm talking about, but I have discussed it a little bit, and it's basically just the technology that Hoka uses to help the runner roll forward in their stride and have a more efficient turnover. If you see here, the shoe doesn't sit flat and sort of rocks when you touch it. That's it. It just helps provide a more propulsive ride and efficiency. As far as the foam goes, we have two different things going on here in the Carbon X. This white foam here is Hoka's PROFLY X foam, which they claim is their most lightweight and resilient foam. And then this black layer here is a more rubberized foam, which helps with ground contact, but also just gives you a little bit more of a responsive ride. But that's not it. Sandwiched in between these two layers of foam is what? A what? A carbon fiber plate. Thank goodness, because you can't have a shoe these days without one. This carbon fiber plate actually splits at the toes and curls under your lateral toes for what Hoka says is a smoother transition. So you got the Meta Rocker technology, you got two foams, and you got this carbon fiber plate that splits at the toes for a smoother transition, which Hoka says. So you're probably wondering, how does this shoe ride? I'd say it rides pretty good. I actually really like the ride of this shoe. Underfoot, it's actually a little firmer than I anticipated for a Hoka, which I kind of appreciate for a racing shoe. It's not as squishy as like the Vaporfly 4% or the Next percent. But don't get me wrong, the Carbon X still has plenty of cushioning. It is, after all, a Hoka. I felt protected, comfortable, and like I had plenty of cushioning underfoot to keep going the distance and rack up the miles. One negative I will say about this midsole slash upper combination is that I felt like it was a little bottom heavy. It's really not a heavy shoe by any means, but when you're talking about how light this upper is and kind of how dense and how much you have going on in this midsole, it does kind of feel a little off balance and sort of uneven. All of the weight is sort of sitting under your foot. And like I said, in general, it's really not a heavy shoe at all by any means, but when you're talking about marathon racing shoes, you're gonna want something really light. There are other shoes in this category that kind of beat it in that sense. So it's like a cement block. All right, that's dramatic, it's really not. But it's a little heavy for me to race in. Moving on to the outsole, we have exposed rubberized foam. The wear on the foam actually isn't too terrible. The tread is wearing out a little bit, but for having absolutely no rubber, I'm pretty impressed with it. I ran on dry roads, wet roads, gravel roads, old town roads. I ran on all the roads, and it held up well in all types of terrain. Another thing I really like about this outsole and Hoka outsoles in general is the wide platform. It makes me feel a heck of a lot more stable going around turns, especially at higher speeds. I think Hoka has a one-up on the other shoes in its category when it comes to stability. And that's kind of all I have to say about the outsole. I mean, there's really not too much. It's good, it's great, it's stable, it's wonderful. Let's move on to the conclusion. So as for the Carbon X, I give it a thumbs up and 4 out of 5 stars. I think Hoka really has something here that can compete with other big name brand carbon fiber plated shoes. Whew, that was a mouthful. But there are some issues with it. I think for me, I wouldn't race in this shoe. I'm sorry, it's not you, it's me. To me, there are just better, lighter options out there that feel better on my foot for racing, but that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna use this shoe, because I definitely am. I'm gonna keep this in my rotation for high tempo days, for those long distance runs where I wanna maintain a certain pace, for fartlek runs. It's definitely gonna be a big player in my running shoe rotation. Who do I think would benefit from this shoe? I think anybody really could. I don't think this is just a shoe for elites. I think this is a shoe for an age grouper. A beginner runner even could wear this shoe. I think that if you can have two shoes, you can have a shoe like the Rincon or the Clifton and then use this for high tempo days and race days. And if you can only have one pair and you get this shoe, I think it's fine too, because this is durable enough to go the distance. I really think that this can be a nice hybrid shoe that can do both, can do training and can do racing. So on the screen here now, I'm gonna put the pros and the cons. So for the pros, we have the light upper, the midsole combo, and that smooth ride. And for the bad, we have the laces, the shoe feels a little bottom heavy, and for me, it's too heavy to really race in. And for price, this shoe is about $180. And if you go on runningwarehouse.com and use my code for 10% off, RunHeller in all caps, you can get it for less than that. And that's a lot less than some of the other shoes in its category. Looking at you, next percent. Well guys, that kind of concludes my full review of the Hoka Carbon X. I hope you enjoyed it. I have the ASICS Glide Ride in my rotation for a full review coming in a few weeks, and I have a couple other cute little fun videos of me making an idiot of myself coming up as well. So if you like those two, you can stick around for that. In the meantime, guys, get out there, get on the grind, and don't forget to run like Heller. I'll see you next time. In the Carbon X, this white foam on